You melting it down like a piece of gold. I've been bought and I've been sold.
Welcome to Danny on Everything. I am your fearless host, Mr. Danny Bedrosian. With us, as sometimes, are Travis Thigpen and David Cobb. Say hello, fellas.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, it is so good to see you guys. So good to have this going on. With us, as always, is Carl Cerny, brilliant producer here at Moose Magnificat at Alcom in Tallahassee, Florida. We are really excited because we're doing our very first video show with VidiSpace, which is a brand new network, brand new television network online, where they're basically airing brand new content. You know, we've been talking about this, Travis, for the past few weeks. The cable is going the way of the dodo, and now it's all streaming networks. Disney just got a new one up. You got Netflix, you got Hulu, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to advertise all those guys. I'm trying to advertise VidiSpace, vidi.space. And that's where we're going to try to start doing this show on a regular, videotaping it as well as the regular audio on moosemagnificat.com, on dannyoneverything.com. And as always, I got to tell the fans, our friends, our listeners, everybody out there, that we are actively searching out sponsors and donations, and we have a donate button right on the website on dannyoneverything.com and on moosemagnificat.com. So you guys can go to those sites, and if you like what you see, what you hear, you can now support us in that way. And so we're really, really excited about all of this new format, this new forum, and I want to thank my friends over at VidiSpace, especially my buddy Nick Groff, for all the help concerning us linking up and doing this. I did a video with Nick at the House of Blues in Boston, and it was my debut on VidiSpace. He basically came before the show and filmed what we do before the show. It was very interesting. It was silly. It was fun. It was, for a lot of the fans, eye-opening, because they don't get to really see that side of like the behind the scenes or whatever. That was a cool idea. It was Nick's idea, you know, and he was like, "Oh, just, you know, you guys setting up the gear and like talking and you know, and just making jokes and stuff." And that's all it really was. It was like our regular kind of, you know, what'd you do last night? You know, joking about whatever happened last night and setting up gear and talking, interviews. And Nick got to get on the bus a few times and meet Lige and Clip and all, you know, a lot of the older guys and some of the younger guys. So it was really cool. It was, you know, in my best Austrian accent, a real eye-opener. And I thought it was fantastic. So we're back. We're doing more. You have to forgive me, my anxiousness today, my sweatiness and anxiousness. We just performed some music, but more importantly, I just went into anaphylactic shock last night. I have a dairy allergy. That's why my music is moosic, you know. That's why we call it that. But I have a really bad dairy allergy, for those who don't know, and it basically closes my throat, and I got to go to the hospital. So I was out eating at a restaurant, and I said, you know, hey, I don't want any dairy on the food. Is your fried fish, does it have milk in the breading, you know? They're like, yeah, it does. You can't have it. But he's like, but we can grill it for you. No dairy. I was like, okay, because I have a dairy allergy. You know, I gotta say that every time. So time goes on, they bring the food. I take like 4 bites, butter, covered in butter. And I was just like, oh no! So I'm like trying to figure out, and we're in Woodville. And for those who don't know, I mean, because, you know, this show is broadcast sometimes in Tallahassee when I'm not on the road. Woodville is in the middle of nowhere. It is in the sticks. It is for lack of a better tune. And you know, I had to drive like 20 minutes to get to the hospital, throat closing, almost hitting cars, you know, it was insane. And then got there just in time. They hooked me up to the IVs and all the machines. I'm like this, and they pumped me full of, I guess, I don't know what it was, epi stuff and was it ephedrine? Is that what they call it? And epinephrine
yeah.
And steroids and all kinds of good junk that kept me from dying. So that was just some hours ago.
All just so you could do the show.
All just so I
Such
could-
dedication.
Such Dan-ication. Such a live occasion. I didn't die.
Yes. Congrats.
But yeah, congrats to me on that. I'm really happy about that. And luckily, I'm able to be here and talk to you fine gentlemen, and we can get going on this show. But I just wanted to throw all that out there, get topical with it. We are being videotaped, so, you know, it's about, what did you do? Oh, I did this. What did you do? Oh, I almost died. Oh, okay, fantastic. Spent the night in the hospital. It was great. But moving on, we have a fantastic show today. Our musical guest is Danny Bedrosian and Som'n Fierce. They're a fantastic trio formed in Tallahassee, Florida, back in 2005. And I'm happy to say that I've been with the group now for some 13 years. David Cobb also has been in the group for a little bit over 10 years now, and Bakari Hines has been with us for about 4 or 5 years as well. And it's a great trio: bass, drums, keys. We've been playing together forever, and we have a lot of fun. But we haven't played together in a while, so it's really cool to be able to bring the group back together for this first show in like over a year. You know, so it's really fantastic. Also, we're going to be doing, it's been a while since we've done it, and we've had some requests from some of our friends and fans to bring it back, Sith and Synth. So we're going to be talking about all of the great Star Wars trivia, Star Wars news, Star Wars information, things going on in the world of the Lucas universe, as it were. Maybe not as it is.
No doubt.
And we are also going to we're going to give you some of the tour dates for the month of December, it being the December episode, for the P-Funk, for George Clinton Empowerment Funkadelic. I'm going to go ahead and just give you guys that now. On December 10th, we're going to be at Wild Buffalo House of Music in Bellingham, Washington. On December 11th and December 12th, we have several two-nighters on this next tour. December 11th and 12th at the famous Neptune in Seattle, Washington. On December 15th at the Union in Los Angeles, California. December 16th and 17th at the Independent in San Francisco, California. Then we have December 27th and December 28th at the House of Blues, New Orleans, another two-nighter. And then December 29th at the Signal in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then our New Year's Eve show on December 31st at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. I believe it's our first time playing there. I can't remember ever playing at the Anthem, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a good time. In addition, I'll be doing my weekend classical gigs pretty much the weekend this is going to air, most likely, December 7th and 8th, at the Chop House on the Bricks in Thomasville, Georgia. If you catch the show in time, catch me on Friday night or Saturday night from 6 to 9 in that beautiful venue. It's an amazing restaurant, some of my favorite food. We've had Chef Matt on the show before. And yeah, so without further ado, we're going to get into some music. We're going to play you, and this is, you know, our second ever live music feature. Mr. David Cobb has been present for both of our musical features, the last time with Appalachie Trio, and then this time with my group, with Som'n Fierce, so I'm really excited about that. And we're going to play you a song called My Country Life. And you are listening to and watching Danny on Everything.
Mama told me never leave the farm, 'cause if you do you'll be in harm. Good old country work is all you need. Teach you how to sweat, how to bleed. Go to see them city bands, play them things in my dancer swing, and the party girls party all night long. Oh. Silly sweet women, I got the nerve. They got that sweet, sweet nerve, screaming through the walls, shimmying up and around the hall. I just don't want my country life back, baby, baby. Just a little bit of simplification. education. You know they say the seeds have been sown, happening all the time. But I got a secret about daddy's blind. Happening all the time. It's pulled by 3,000-pound cow. Happening all the time. Seeds they have been sown, and all the children they've been grown. There's a world of little hoochie-la. Hoochie-hoochie and a rub-a-dum-dum. But you cannot listen, mama, 'cause you got some more chores to do. So I milked them cows 30 times till they couldn't milk no more. Skinny cows and body boys ain't got a lot of choice. No. Don't believe in everything you read, but read everything that you don't believe. Yeah. Don't believe in everything you read, but read everything that you don't believe. Everything you read, but read everything that you don't believe. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Don't believe in everything you read now. Read everything that you don't believe. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Oh. No, no. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Don't believe
My name is Danny Bedrosian. On the bass, David Cobb. On the drums, Bakari Hines. We're Som'n Fierce. You are hearing, seeing, experiencing Danny on everything. You love it.
Cause it's my time, and I got that time.
We are back. Danny on everything. My name is Danny Bedrosian. You just heard my band, Som'n Fierce, playing My Country Life. It's a song written by myself and Mr. Daryl Spielman way back in 2004 and appeared on the my first solo album, Som'n Fierce, which is what the band was named after, and has been sort of one of my standards ever since. It's one of the few songs that both of my original bands, Som'n Fierce and Secret Army, play. One of the very few. And so I was happy to have Mr. Bakari Hines, our drummer, and Mr. David Cobb, who's here with us today, our bassist, performing alongside me. It was really great. And without further ado, we'd like to bring you up to date with everything Star Wars, featuring my friend, the Novation Base Station 2, and my bitter enemy, Mr. Travis Thigpen. As well as Mr. Dave Cobb sitting in with his 2 cents. Sith and Synth. Travis, what do you got for us today? What are we talking about here?
Well, I figured since the last time I was on here, the Solo movie had come out, and we could actually do a little review on that, whether we liked it or not. Or
Right. Han Solo.
Was it necessary?
Was it necessary? Well, let's talk about it a little. Travis, give us your thoughts. What do you think? Was it necessary?
You know, from the beginning of the movie, it was mired in controversy. They fired 2 directors, ended up bringing in Ron Howard. There was a quote from Kathleen Kennedy saying that she didn't like the way the original directors folded their socks.
No way.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that, like, literally everything that they did, she did not like. She hated.
Oh.
So they were fired reportedly at 80% of the movie completed.
Yeah, I remember hearing that they were almost done with the movie, and they brought in
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard, from Happy Days.
And reportedly he
Ron Howard, the director.
Yeah,
that wasn't unfair.
He reshot over 80% of the movie again. So very little of what you actually see in the Solo movie is the Lorne and Miller take of it. You were speculating that probably the first opening act is what.
To me, it feels that way because there was a lot of talk about Proxima.
Right.
Proxima being this
Lady
Proxima. She's like a female Jabba the Hutt in occupation. She's not a Hutt, but she is this weird worm cyborg, and she appears at the beginning of the Han Solo movie. And there was a lot of stuff going on about her when the original directors were working on this. She was being featured very heavily in Star Wars news at that time. That's when I first started hearing about her, was when we first started hearing about the Han Solo movie. Now, I know she existed before then in, the books?
I think she's from Legends, actually.
Yeah, okay, she's from Legends. She's one of the characters that was culled out of Legends.
Yeah, I believe so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe she's from Legends.
Okay. A little underutilized. The scene was so short that I remember you even saying, "Oh, where was she in that?" I don't even remember seeing her.
It took me a while to remember. Oh yeah, she's the worm that comes out of the water and says some alien stuff, and then she's gone.
And then spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie, the light. The way he got out of having to deal with Proxima, Han Solo got out of having to deal with Lady Proxima, was by shooting a piece of the roof off and having the light come into the room, and it started burning her face off, and she had to jump back under the water. As well as her main henchmen, who all have the same problem with the sun that she has. I don't know if it's albinism of some kind. I don't know what it is that's preventing her. I didn't know what happened to worms. I didn't know worms didn't do sun.
They're not vampires? Is that what?
Wormpires.
Wormpires.
They're wormpires.
Okay. The Wormpire strikes back.
It sounds...
Wormpire strikes.
Yeah, Proxima seemed like, who is this? Is she important? I guess not, because she's gone.
Yeah.
She took the Snoke role. Basically, the Snoke role. She's super mega important to the story, and then as soon as you learn anything about her, she's dead and gone.
Yeah.
Well, I guess she didn't die, but she's gone.
She just jumped back in the water.
Never to be seen again.
I doubt this is the last we've seen of Wormpire.
She will strike back.
Well, there was supposed to be a Solo number 2. I mean, if
That
you
was
watch
in-
the
I
end
think
of
that's
the
called a
movie,
duo, isn't it?
Nice. Han Duo.
Dos,
Ooh.
on dos.
This is the reason why I wanted you on the show today.
Can we talk about him choosing his name as Solo?
Oh, worst part of the movie.
What the heck was that about?
The worst part of the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
just
been
lazy writing.
It's
once
been
again,
complained
you know?
about by everybody, though. Everybody's noticed that. Like, that's the one thing that they're all like, yeah, somebody from like the Empire,
Yeah, you
kind of
let
like
some pencil pusher, like bureaucrat, just like, oh yeah, whatever, you know, Solo.
You know what that was? Somebody watched the Godfather 2 too many times. That's what that is. He's Vito Corleone from Andolini. What was Vito? Oh, he's like Vito Andolini from Corleone. Oh, Vito Corleone. You know, the old Ellis Island, they messed my name up thing. Happens to the best of us. My name had 2 S's in it before I came over here. You know, before my people came over here.
Well, I mean, Han didn't even have a last name.
Yeah.
He just had
just
one name.
right.
Which is interesting because from the legends, he's actually comes from a very rich family. Which
Really?
they changed all of that. Like he gave up his title. He's more like a Princess Leia without the adoption part of it, obviously,
Really?
or whatever. But he comes from royalty or a very well-to-do family,
Like
and
an
he chose to
Aragorn
leave.
character.
And that's in Legends?
That's in
the
Legends, yeah.
expanded
So they
stuff.
completely changed it because I remember them saying, yeah, my dad wanted to be a pilot, but he ended up working in the shipyards of Corellia.
Oh yeah, and that's definitely not royalty, unless he was adopted, right? Unless it's the kind of
Maybe something like that.
like a
if they wanted to
backwards
tie it in,
backwards Organa situation.
which is something they don't normally do in Star Wars. So I don't actually see that happening in the future. But yeah, that scene to me, the whole opening crawl, you know, or not crawl, but just the whole first act of the movie was just really weirdly written and just like lazily put together with stuff like that. Like, oh, well, you're Solo, so your name's Han. And the fact that he just took it, he's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's good stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna roll with that forever. Because here's the point: he literally, whether it's Legends or you know the actual canon, he hates the Empire. Like that's he joined them. He saw how corrupt they were, what they were doing to the galaxy, and he ends up leaving them. So for what do you call him? For like a person of the Empire to actually give him his name, and then for him to keep it all the way through till the
That's
end of
his
his
slave
life.
name, basically.
And not
Yeah,
to it is a slave name, and not to give too much credit to a scene that I really didn't like. The only thing I can say in some kind of apologist form for that scene is that the Empire represents so much of the galaxy, even at that early of a stage, that that connotating it to the Empire may not exactly be what he was doing. It was just a guy who had a job, you know what I mean? To him, you know what I mean? It's a bureaucracy. It's not necessarily just, it wasn't like Emperor Palpatine said you are Han Solo, you know what I mean? It was like some guy, like you said, some pencil pusher was like, all right, I'm Solo, blah, blah, oh, okay, I'll take that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's still really weird.
I think it would have been better if he was like 5 and somebody gave him that name when he was
Or
5.
if he just said it. You know what I mean? Imagine the whole difference of the scene if he was like, what's your last name? He's like, I'm alone. Solo.
I'm alone. Even that's
You know,
bad.
like, well, that's
I'm
what he said
alone.
literally in the movie. He's
It's
like,
like
well, I'm
saying-
all alone. I got no family.
It's like saying I like carrots. You can call me Carrots. Danny Carrots. That's me. Like, it's insane. The whole
Man,
scene-
I
but-
like turtles.
Nice. Travis Turtles. Oh my God. So
I always thought that Solo was just a name like any other name that didn't mean literally Solo.
me too. I always thought, yeah.
And I think it
exactly.
would have been fine to keep it that way.
Right.
Rather than, Han Alono.
Right.
In Legends, that's his family name. Is Solo.
Okay,
It's not something
yeah.
that's just given to him.
Your last name is Cobb. I've never ascribed you to the Cobbs of corn, for instance.
I appreciate that.
So do I.
I expect more from you, Danny.
But to get back to Han Solo, just to give it my little take, you can't really talk about the Han Solo movie without thinking about The Last Jedi, the movie that came out right before it. Of course, it has no place in the chronology with it, but you know what it is, and then also Rogue One, which is the first of the A Star Wars Story series, which they've now called they've canned that. And also to A Force Awakens. So basically, like the last 3 movies, the 2 trilogy movies, you know, for the new trilogy, and the last A Star Wars Story. You have to sort of compare it to those in some kind of way. Now, for me, the Han Solo movie and The Last Jedi, which are the 2 most recent Star Wars movies, are the only 2 Star Wars movies since Return of the Jedi that I haven't seen in the theater. That's saying a lot. I've seen every Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi in the theater. And those are the first two. However, that being said, I still had like a really kind of different feeling about both of them. I mean, they're very different movies, but to me, I was saying this to you last night, a big part of the Star Wars aesthetic for me is going to the theater, usually around Christmas, and enjoying this Star Wars movie, every bit of the aesthetic that goes along with it.
Stormtroopers show up.
Yeah,
people got
Star
lightsabers
Destroyers.
out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's a whole thing.
Having not seen those two in the movies, I saw Last Jedi for the first time on the tour bus and liked it the first time. Although, of course, on the tour bus we're all talking, we're watching, we're talking, and I was with good company, so like I probably felt a little differently about it. But then I watched it the second time by myself, and I absolutely hated it. Han Solo was different for me. The very first time, I wasn't able to get through it. You know what I mean? And then, the second, third, fourth, fifth time watching it, I finally got through. I mean, it took me a lot of tries.
He kept coming over every night and being like, "Yeah, I tried to watch it again. I fell asleep."
Yep.
So it didn't hold your attention very well.
It didn't hold my attention very well.
And I think anybody could say that. That first act of Solo is really slow.
It's really slow.
I mean, you get a worm, you get a little car chase. They hit the guy from Rebels. I thought that was pretty awesome. That robot that you hated.
Oh my God.
That was the biggest complaint I've ever heard you say about Star Wars. And then they just run him over right in the middle.
Yeah, he's killing me. But strangely enough, once it got towards like the scene with the tram, the speeding tram thing and all that, I mean, the action was cool and I liked that. However, you brought up a really good point. I want you to bring it up again. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So you brought up a point about Woody Harrelson's girlfriend. I forget her name.
Okay, yeah.
And the little
Val.
and Rocket Raccoon the second.
Rio.
Who, as you told me, is older than Rocket Raccoon, but you know what I mean, him. Those two guys, like, basically sacrificed their lives for a minor
For literally
heist,
nothing.
and then only to find out that the people that had killed them end up being, like, friendlies.
Yeah, and on their side.
And now everybody's cool, like you said, now everybody's cool, and these people both died, and they're, like, characters that you're kind of made to feel for, and, I mean, I guess that's part of the point or whatever, but...
You know what I've always learned from movies, cartoons, everything that we come up with? Lack of communication seems to be everything.
Yeah.
Because not Lady Prog, what's her name? Oh man, I can't remember her name. She's a really good character. I actually liked her at the end where she reveals herself, takes off the mask. She's like, I'm on your side.
The warlord or
The
whatever.
warlord, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She literally, if she just would have taken 5 minutes in the beginning of the movie and was like, yo, man, I need this fuel for this. I'm part of the rebellion. I'm doing this, this, and that. I see you guys aren't with the Empire. None of this would have happened.
Right.
Val literally sacrifices herself for nothing. It didn't stop the train. It didn't keep the train going. It did nothing.
Yeah.
Like, the train was gone by the time it got to the part where the explosion happened and took her life. And the creepiest, cringy part of this is supposed to be Beckett, Woody Harrelson's character's like love of his life.
Yes.
And literally you get 1 second of no.
And then after
And
that,
that's it.
You never hear about it.
Never, not a tear, not a nothing. Love of his life just died, and he just brushes it off his shoulder like Luke did in The Last Jedi. It's just
Such a stupid death too.
Yeah,
It's just,
terrible
like,
death.
Totally avoidable.
avoidable. Yeah, exactly what it was. And then you got Rio, the other guy, and as soon as he was like, yeah, I'm about 2 weeks from retirement pulling the old Murtaugh on us or whatever, I knew he was dead like instantly.
Well, let's talk about what we did like about it, because one thing I have to say, I didn't like it as much as Rogue One, but I liked it better than The Last Jedi.
It was better than I thought it would be. For as much trouble as this movie had, it was a lot better than I thought.
Yep. I think as far as a Star Wars story goes, Rogue One was better. As far as recent Star Wars movies go, it was better than The Last Jedi. But that being
Clone
said,
Wars is better than The Last Jedi.
yeah, sure is.
The most hated Star Wars movie of all time.
I also saw that in the theater. I kind of liked it, but yeah, the things I did like about it. Again, spoiler alert: Darth Maul. I liked that Darth Maul was in it. I love the girl from Game of Thrones. I have the
Emilia
biggest fanboy crush on her. It doesn't matter what color her hair is; she's amazing to me. And I liked most of the special effects. I even liked Proxima. I liked the things about this movie. I thought it was a good action movie. You know, Woody Harrelson was all right. Sometimes he kind of kills me, but he was okay.
I thought he kind of phoned it in. It's very weird to me because if you look at like two of the biggest actors they put in these movies, right? You got Benicio del Toro and Woody Harrelson, and both of their roles were very just like weird, very forgettable.
I think that they were trying not to be too over the top with their characters. I think they were trying to be Star Warsy. Like, think about how they were looking at Samuel L. Jackson after The Phantom Menace. Just after The Phantom Menace, they were like, he's phoning it in. But then you start seeing him in Attack of the Clones, he's not phoning anything in, or Revenge of the Sith. He's killing the game, you know? That's how I look at that. But thoughts, Dave? What do you think?
Well, I was just thinking about, Lando and Han are two of the most memorable Star Wars characters, and how did the movie maintain that, or did it discredit that, or did it... I mean, how do you think their portrayals were?
Well, I thought Donald Glover did a good job.
Yeah, he was great.
In the Lando role, I hate his droid. I hate his relationship with the droid.
It was a little weird.
We're getting into like droid, human. I don't. It was. I mean, I'm not.
I didn't have a problem with that. I thought
it was really kind of weird for me. And like that's Lando's. That's his
backstory.
That's his bag. He's into that. I mean, like,
so, what's going on with him and Lobot? It puts a whole new dynamic onto that, like in the future.
Oh, God.
Yeah, everybody's talking about, he's so handsome, he's so great. Well, if he's so handsome, he's so great, you'd think women were swooning over him, and he's too busy making out with a droid. I mean, we don't see him make out with a droid, thank God.
It's
but it's basically...
Droid literally says it. He wants me.
He wants me. The droid said he wants me. One of my biggest problems. See, now we're getting back into problems with the movie again, so obviously I don't like it that much. Between 1 and 5 stars, gentlemen, what do you guys give it? Travis, 1 to 5 stars.
2.5 to 3.
Okay, Dave?
I'll give it 4. It was
really?
fun.
Okay, yeah, fun.
It was fun.
I'm gonna go ahead and say 3, because it's somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere in the middle with it. First half is kind of terrible. Second half is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle. So
I mean, there's some really great scenes and there's some really awful ones. Like my favorite scene of the whole movie is basically when Han gets caught or whatever. He's like, throw him to the beast! And they just chuck him down there, and Chewie just starts tossing him against walls all over the place. He's just muddy and disheveled, just tore up. And the way they met, I actually really liked.
The Chewbacca stuff was awesome.
But they didn't explain the life debt.
No, they
which
didn't.
is kind of the biggest thing I wanted to see in that. Not the Kessel Run. I don't care that you went through a cloud of dust and there was a big octopus and you used some fuel to go. That was the dumbest,
I kind of like that scene.
Man.
I like that part. I mean, they had to explain
bad.
it. They had to explain it. It's the biggest part of his origin story. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. Okay, let's take a quick break. We're gonna come back with we're gonna check out some technical difficulties that we may or may not have, and we're gonna come back with some more Sith and Synth with David Cobb, Travis Thigpen, myself, Danny Bedrosian. You are listening and watching Danny on Everything.
so nasty, sassy, such a classy lassie. Let my light so I'm going to with my plastic razzie. You look rocky, classy. Let me grab my plastic. Ripped up a zip up on a tripper. Now you give me the hand trick like classic on classic now. Marching in formation, forming a brand new nation. For the sweaty balls and bloody hogs on your radio station. A new thing's in order. You cannot cross this border. Put your credit card away, chump, 'cause you can't afford her. Ooh, Lord, 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 Lord. Ooh, Lord, Lord, Lord. Lord, 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 Lord.
We are back, Danny on everything. I am Danny Bedrosian. With me, Travis Thigpen and David Cobb. Oh. We're going back to Sith and Synth. With my friend, the Novation Base Station 2. We got some cartoons coming. Star Wars Resistance, it's already out.
I believe it's already started.
The Poe Dameron story.
It focuses on Poe Dameron.
And the final season, 7 years later, or whatever it is, of Clone Wars.
The 8th season.
And the Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, which is coming soon. Let's talk about these upcoming shows and our thoughts on them. Travis, kind of give the rundown of the three of them and what you think is going to be good and maybe bad about all of them.
All right. Star Wars Resistance is basically the replacement show for Star Wars Rebels. It's not done by Dave Filoni. This is a whole
Which
new,
is a bad idea.
Yeah, anything in Star Wars should not be done without him having a part in it. The animation is what actually kind of draws me to it, makes me at least interested kind of to see it, because it's done in the Japanese style compared to the 3D like cube face that they've been doing like in Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels.
Which I hated.
Yeah, which most people do in terms.
What, Clone Wars?
Yeah, it's so childish looking. It's just
animation on Clone Wars was so bad to me. It was so bad, and Rebels was a little weird, but I liked by like the middle.
It was smoother. It wasn't so blocky.
Yes, I mean the Clone Wars is so blocky, but Rebels is like I like the colors in Rebels. And I kind of like the colors in this next movie. I mean, this next cartoon, the Resistance.
It's
colors.
a little too bright for me. Yeah. The Resistance, it's way too bright. Basically, the show centers around Poe Dameron and a group of kind of like I'm gonna use, not a good word, but apprentices. They're learning how to be pilots and how to be a squadron and everything, and directly answer to him. It's a story that I'm not interested in seeing.
Me neither.
I don't.
Chronologically, where does that fit into the latest trilogy?
What is it? It's in between
7 and 8.
7 and 8, yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's in between 7 or 8, or just before 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not all that excited to see the Poe story.
And I like Poe. Yeah. I just don't care so much about it being an entire series of
for
cartoons.
a guy that was supposed to be dead in the first 5 minutes of The Force Awakens. Like, he was supposed to be killed off, but JJ was like, whoa, you can act, dude. We're going to keep you around.
He's a great actor.
He's a great actor.
He's a fantastic actor. He was also in the movie The Promise about the Armenian genocide, and I have to say, like, if you're casting if you're casting a non-Armenian as an Armenian, let it at least be somebody like Oscar Isaac who can he made me feel like he was Armenian by the end. It was all his acting skills. Just amazing actor. He really blew my mind in that movie. So I like the actor. I like Oscar Isaac a lot.
And I think he is actually doing the voice dubbing for it too.
Oh,
I like that as well.
good.
I think that's
good.
great. I think that they've done really well with that, having Forrest Whitaker did the dubbing for his parts too on Rebels and on Rebels.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Resistance crap. Final season of Clone Wars.
Finally re-releasing that. They've had it out since the end of the show, but it was never completed. So it's basically kind of weird looking, like outline 3D images, but you can watch each episode, but you just don't get all the completed animation. So they finally completed it, and they're going to be releasing it, I believe, on their new streaming service, Disney+.
Yeah, that's the new Disney thing. I think it's like, I don't want to say too little too late. I think that it is a slightly clumsy attempt, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I think it's a slightly clumsy attempt to bring the real Star Wars fans back into the fold, because I think that they have an inclination that more older, disillusioned Star Wars fans somewhat liked Clone Wars, and because of that, they're gonna finish it all up because they felt like they didn't end it right. I think that there's some truth to that statement, but I also think that it's like the too little too late thing. I mean that like with respect to the older, disillusioned Star Wars fans. I guess I'm one of them. I'm not totally as disillusioned as some. I mean, I don't think I'm even as disillusioned as you are with respect to, say, some of the garbage they put out. But because I find some good things in some of it and etc. But I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this last. I think I'll like it okay, and I think I'll be like, well, they spent that money on that, and that's that.
What do you want to see the completion for sure?
Yeah.
I think that's valid, but it is. It's exactly, they're like, whoa, we screwed up big with this Solo here.
We need to, and with the Last Jedi,
the whole fan base is divided. At least they like that, and at the end, it was getting really dark.
It was getting really dark at the end. I love those last couple episodes.
Oh man, the last couple seasons. Where Yoda goes and meets Bane, and he becomes a canon, and the rule of two is explained and how that all goes down. I mean, it's really good stuff.
It was really weird because Yoda was like, Bane you are, and Bane was like, yes, I'm Bane. No, it's actually Darth Bane. I had to make that joke. Darth Bane. He's a Sith.
So it wasn't like, what a pretty voice
pretty voice you have. Okay, so yeah, Clone Wars coming. What do you think, Dave? You watched some of the Clone Wars.
I watched some of the Clone Wars.
Will you watch the new last season of the Clone Wars, do you think?
Well, I never finished the original seasons, but Cartoon Network had a Clone Wars 2-part years ago that was like in Samurai Jack style.
Yeah, it was actually done by the Samurai.
That was really cool.
Incredible.
And if they had made this Clone Wars like that one, I'd probably have watched all of it by now.
Was it Genndy Tartakovsky who
Whoever
did it?
does Samurai Jack
Genndy Tartakovsky.
did a 52 episode
Amazing.
or 31 episode run of Clone Wars.
I mean, Samurai Jack was like my life when I first moved to Tallahassee. It was like my favorite show. I love it.
Man,
and when
great.
when they brought it back, I watched every episode, like every episode. So yeah, okay, so Clone Wars, and then we have this one that you and I saw the trailer for the other night, and I think that you and I, it's one of the few things that I kind of disagree about, but I do agree with you on aspects of it, and that is Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, which the name is absolutely
The name
terrible.
sounds like a Disney ride from the 80s.
Yeah, I was just about to say something
it's
from
a
the
small
80s,
world
Galaxy
after all,
of
or something.
Adventures. Yeah, it's so bad. But
Which they're opening up a park in 2019 in Disneyland. Why don't you just call one of your rides Galaxy?
I'm sure
They
they will.
should do a big Epcot that's like the Death Star, and you can just tour through it and see like different stations and like
That'd be
where they-
amazing.
Yeah, right.
That'd be incredible. No, they don't have ideas like that over at Disney.
Well,
but,
they need to hire me.
They do. They need to hire. Ladies and gentlemen, David Cobb is looking for work, specifically with the Disney Corporation.
I will save Star Wars.
I see how many people have said that.
Everybody says
so
that.
Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, I'm going to just first say what I like about it and what I hate
Well,
about it.
tell them what it is first.
Yeah, okay,
what is
Star
this?
Wars Galaxy of Adventures is a Luke, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, Han Solo, C-3PO, R2-D2, Palpatine.
This is a horrible explanation. So basically what Galaxy of Adventures is a cartoon version of the original trilogy. They're taking 4, 5, and 6. He says the prequels. I don't remember the prequel part. Prequels might be included if it is. But so they're taking 1 through 6, animating it, and adding in and filling in the story gaps from those movies.
Right.
In SpongeBob animation
Does anybody want Disney to have that kind of control and power to actually rewrite some of what Lucas did from the 70s and early 80s?
Well, I think the biggest problem, you just touched on the biggest problem with it. What I like about it is the aesthetic. It actually looks a little bit like Samurai Jack. It looks a little bit like the Genndy Tartakovsky stuff. It may even be somewhat involved, I don't know. But what's terrible about it is they're saying this is going to be canon. So in other words, they're taking stories that already exist, likely changing them because once again, just like the Poe Dameron show, they're talking about this is going to be for kids. Yeah. So they're taking what was once a movie for kids and adults and turning it into a cartoon just for kids, which to me aesthetically looks great, but worries me when it get down to canonical diatribes because
they
it's like
already did this. They did Forces of Destiny, which filled in the gaps. It's
what was that, a video game?
No, it's these little 3-minute movies or 3-minute clips on YouTube. There's like 30 or 40 of them or whatever. And literally every question you've ever had about Star Wars has been answered in these things. Okay. Like, how does Leia get the dress from the Ewoks? It answers
good question.
That. Yeah.
That is a good question.
You know, just little stupid stuff. That's what I figured this show is going to be about, is filling in those little answers that no one really wanted anyways. You know, like...
But I have to say,
do Ewoks eat people? That's
they
what
totally
I want to know. They were ready to eat people.
No, they eat people.
they ate a ton of stormtroopers.
Yeah, they ate a ton of.
They ate so many stormtroopers.
That's why he's playing
I
drums.
also saw this thing that was like, what would really happen to Endor when the Death Star blows up?
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. Basically, all life is wiped out.
Yeah.
On the planet or
they,
moon.
They colonized.
No, I mean the explosion from the Death Star
landed
strips the entire planet of every life form.
Yeah, they didn't tell Han.
Scientifically speaking, that makes a lot of sense.
They didn't tell Han and Leia that when they decided to put them in. We got this great mission for you guys. So to me, again, I have to say the aesthetics of it look brilliant. I mean, the scene where she puts the little message in R2-D2, like where she's like bent down, putting the message in there, you know, like all that kind of like all those little like iconic Star Wars moments. Like Travis said, and it's a good point. It's all been done before. Maybe not in this animation style, which I do like. But once again, my biggest concern is that this is a Kathleen Kennedy motivated moment to change canon more, unfortunately, against the better wishes of most Star Wars fans, in order for them to canonize things that don't exist and to decanonize things that already do. So I worry a little bit about, I think that Disney's biggest...
Are you going to write out the midichlorians or whatever?
Oh, please,
you're going to get rid of that?
Please do that.
I kind of like the midichlorians. They don't bother me. I am also of the rare opinion that I would have loved George Lucas's Episode 7. Everybody always talks about how bad it would have been, about the wills and the creatures inside the Force. I'm sorry. That would have been amazing to me, because it's like, let's take this story and go way inside. Now we're taking it, and the only person who could do that is George Lucas. He's the only one who could do that, and I think he would do it well. It may get a little bit of blowback from some fans, but no more blowback than, say, The Phantom Menace. You know what I mean? No more blowback than Jar Jar Binks. You know what I mean? I think it's a really cool idea. I know it's a little off topic, but I wanted to mention it. I know there's a book about it. I know he made this quote about that not too long ago.
Well, he wrote a script for 7. When they first signed the deal, he was supposed to have involvement in everything going forward. Yep. Like, whether it's a technical advisor or here's my story, you need to make this. And they basically, when they were writing 7, looked at his script and were like, no, we're good, and threw it in the garbage. And that's it. They haven't had contact since.
And they threw the series in the garbage with it.
And from what I understand, his version of Episode 7 really wasn't all that different. You know, Luke was on an island. You know, the first Jedi Temple kind of shut himself off from the world or whatever. I think the difference would have been when you get to 8 and what Rian Johnson did.
Okay, true. Okay, so the one about the wills and all that was supposed to be Episode 8?
No, the wills was from the beginning. That's his main idea. When he started writing Star Wars, he did the Journal of the Wills. It was originally called the Journal of the Wills, and then for some reason he was like, that's just not going to work. Star Wars. It's going to be brilliant.
The Journal of the Wills story, though, and like what it entails, I think is so cool.
You need to get the book. There's a Journal of the Wills book that is canon that's come out in the last year or whatever, and it deals with the two characters from Rogue One, the Donnie Yin's character and his buddy with the gun.
It's my favorite two characters in that movie. I actually like that movie a lot. We talked about that before.
And that's what's cool about those movies, is the Star Wars stories, because, I mean, even if you didn't like Solo, it's basically a heist movie. And then you got Rogue One. It's basically like an old World War I like war movie, you know. And I like that Star Wars is willing to do that. Let's get some of these like not period pieces, but
genre pieces. Yeah. I have a good friend who's in the Marines, and he said that Rogue One was like his favorite of all the new movies. He said, including the prequels, including the he swears by the movie, and he didn't like The Force Awakens, but he loves Rogue One. He's like, oh, that Force Awakens was terrible, but Rogue One was amazing. I'm like, well, that makes sense because you're a military man. You know what I mean? It's a real military movie.
Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
Rogue One.
Yeah, exactly. Now, moving on, TV shows, there's this thing that Jon Favreau is doing, The Mandalorian, and the Mandalorians are the race, for those who are more lay people of the Star Wars world, the Mandalorians are the race the suit that Boba Fett wears, although he is probably not Mandalorian, or it hasn't been fully confirmed that he or his father are necessarily Mandalorian, but the Mandalorians... I think
it's confirmed that he did take the armor from somebody.
From a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But the Mandalorians are a militarized race of people who have a pretty ancient history in the galaxy and who were the centerpiece of a series of wars that occurred way before the Battle of Yavin. Am I correct? Is that a good...
Before, after.
Okay, yeah, right.
Probably during.
Yeah, there was a lot of Mandalores. Mandalore the Indomitable, Mandalore the Exciting, Mandalore the Stupendous, and
those last two are not real.
And there's talk about Nick Nolte's gonna be on this show. I don't know how I feel about that. I already told Travis, I said, like, if he's in it, he's probably gonna be like he's gonna be one of the Mandalores, and he's gonna be in a flashback scene. That's how I picture it.
Or he's just so old and decrepit that he gives advice.
Right, okay, he's a sage.
To the younger group, yeah.
Travis was really excited about it until I explained to Travis that the person he's thinking of is Gary Busey. He's like, I love that guy with the buck teeth, he's always kind of crazy. I'm like, that's Gary, that's the second tier.
Similar anger level and intensity level.
Very similar.
They get compared to each other a lot, But this show... I have more, like, this is like where we differ again, we're on the other side. This is one that you think is going to be great because of the inclusion of John...
This is the only reason I'm excited for Star Wars. I'd be shutting it down right now if it wasn't for this Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau and what? Filoni is involved too, right?
Filoni's doing at least the first episode, but I think it's the first 3. Taika Waititi, the guy that did Thor Ragnarok's doing a couple episodes. Basically, Jon Favreau's the producer. Dave Filoni's the executive producer of it, so he will have, control throughout, which is what we all want.
Right.
And then they're gonna bring in special guest directors for either a couple episodes, very much like the way The Flash does it. If you ever watch like The Flash on CW or whatever, right. Every time you watch a new episode, there's a new director.
Right. Which is interesting.
Yeah, like Kevin Smith, or the guy that I don't know why he's called this, but he's called Speedweed, and I looked him up, and that's what he is.
Yeah, that's his name, Speedweed. No, I know this guy, Speedweed. Right. Yeah, no, I've seen him he's written a bunch of stuff.
A ton.
Yeah, a bunch of television. Yeah. He's written a lot of television.
Yeah, and that's basically what they're going to be doing with this. It's reported that it has the largest TV budget maybe of all time, definitely rivaling Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's $100 million for a 10-episode series.
Wow.
So basically $10 million an episode. Industrial Light and Magic has set up their own department to specifically deal with the streaming service of Disney Plus and the shows that are going to be coming on it, The Mandalorian.
That's the most hope I have in this is Favreau, Filoni, and Industrial Lights and Magic. Like it's
everybody you want.
Yeah, that's what you want. Those are the people you want to be involved, and if it's not George Lucas himself and them.
I mean, who launched the Marvel universe?
I know.
Let's be real, it's Jon Favreau. And Iron Man 1.
Iron Man, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the Incredible Hulk.
Right. No, because they had to reboot it. Because they had to reboot that twice. Yeah. Really, I mean the character and the idea.
The second one with what's his face is actually the beginning.
Is the Ang Lee? That one's not associated with the MCU. That Hulk.
It's the one that has what's his face in it. The last one they made.
Yeah, Edward Norton.
Edward Norton. Yeah, that's the one that's actually.
That one's part of the MCU, right?
The one with Eric.
I gotta say that Thor 3 was really awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that. Was my favorite Thor easily. Maybe my favorite Marvel
comedy
movie.
To the Mandalorian. That's in that. That would be amazing.
Mandalorians aren't that funny.
They can be.
If it was a show about droids, I could see the comedy coming. But like, I feel like comedy on Mandalore.
A different comedy, not Thor Ragnarok comedy. Where
Right.
it's like, haha, we work together.
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
I love it.
That was like my favorite line in the whole movie. But like, just the Star Wars comedy that's there. I think Taika Waititi can totally write that in there and do it where it's not out of place.
Yeah. Just quick thought out there. I just have to throw this out there. Thor, to me, best trilogy in the Marvel universe. Best overall trilogy, because I know Iron Man started the thing, but 2 and 3 to me were hot garbage. And then Spider-Man, all those trilogies, they're kind of like throwaway. And then you've got like the Captain America would have been great if Civil War was not a movie. And then, you know what I mean?
Civil War.
But then I hate Civil War. It's my least favorite movie of like all time.
I'm with you on that.
But
Wow,
other than
okay.
Batman versus Superman or Justice League, throw any of those in there.
Yeah.
Terrible. But I have to say, out of all the trilogies, the Marvel trilogies, I think that like it's the most consistent. Thor
What
is the
about
most
the
consistent.
Avengers as a trilogy?
Yeah, we haven't seen all of them yet, but I think once
True,
that
but
happens,
I mean, we've seen 3 of them at
We've
least.
seen 3 of them.
Oh, we've
There's
seen-
only one more coming.
oh yeah, so well, it's not a trilogy then.
Well, it's a trilogy at this point.
It's a quarterly.
quadrilogy.
It's a quadrilogy.
Honestly, I don't give the Avengers that much. There's just not enough story development in it for me to be like a quality trilogy.
Okay.
It's just here we are, boom, here's the action, here's an explosion, we're fighting this guy, we're gonna kill him. Oh, we don't like each other, okay, the story's over.
Yeah, that's a lot of people to balance. Too.
It really is, and I'm not
So
hating
that's
on
why
them
you
for
don't get
that.
any really character development because
Yeah.
there's no time for that.
But that's
There's
why
no
I can't
time in a
put it-
2-hour movie for that kind
Yeah,
of
we
stuff.
got to get to the action.
These arcs are arcs that have lasted over 30, 40 years in comics. Like, that's a 30-page comic book every month, and for in the 90s, twice a month. You know what I mean? So these are arcs that are, like, hugely developed, you know. But anyway, moving back to Star Wars, I have to say, Cassian, we got a Cassian show.
Yeah, they just announced this. So basically, in 2019, at the beginning of it, you get the Clone Wars series or whatever.
Yeah.
That's going to kick it off. And then somewhere around September or October, you're going to get the Disney Plus streaming launching. So right before Episode 9 comes out in December, The Mandalorian's going to come out and run right up to, I would think, like the week before. Unless they do a straight, you're going to get it all on a binge like Netflix does. But I think they're going to do it probably weekly or whatever. Okay. And that's going to lead you right up to Episode 9. And then I would think by the fall or the spring of 2020, you're going to get the Rogue One Cassian Andor series. I don't think it has a full title yet or an actual title. But this is probably one of the things that I'm most disappointed in hearing come out. Like, he was probably the worst character in Rogue One.
See, I kind of dug him all
he was
right. I
all
thought he
and
was
I
all right.
love him
I
as
didn't.
an actor. I think he's great in everything else he is in. But in Rogue One, it was just bad writing, and his execution of it was horrible.
They should just give the droid from Rogue One its own.
Yeah, I
I would
loved
much rather K2SO.
It's amazing.
The droid was
To
awesome.
see him picking up and body slamming people all.
And it's
10
funny
episodes.
because right before you told me about this show coming out, I was making this joke, this long-running joke that I've had for a few days now about, you know what the new show is coming out on Star Wars. Like, you know, just because like you get so many of these, like, to me, disappointing ideas being thrown out there for shows, for Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
So I said,
Jabba the Hutt the movie. Who cares?
I would have loved it. I would have loved that. But this is my kind of joke. Chancellor Valorum. The Chancellor Valorum
God,
movie.
really?
Star Wars Chancellor
Chancellor
Wars. Star Wars Chancellor Wars. The Chancellor Valorum story. Ooh, that's gonna be slow.
What about the Bib Fortuna story? That's the story I want to hear.
I'd watch a Bib Fortuna story way before a Chancellor Valorum story. I was trying to find like the most ineffectual, boring. I mean, because Chancellor Valorum is he's Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
He's Neville Chamberlain. That's who Chancellor Valorum is. He is the British Prime Minister before Winston Churchill that gave Hitler all the concessions in Europe way before World War II. He's the guy who was like, oh, okay, you can have the Sudetenland. Oh, okay, check, you know, like that's where he was at.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what Valorum is. He's Neville Chamberlain. He's straight up Neville Chamberlain. But anyway, that was my little joke. I think the Cassian show is ineffectual, unimportant, and hopefully won't set the series back or the
only thing that can be cool about it is the time frame that it's in and the people that you can bring into it. You can get Krennic in there. You can get Vader in there.
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma. You can get Tarkin in there.
Yeah.
There's all kinds.
One of my favorites.
Did he meet Solo? You know, you can have Aaron, whatever that guy's name is, that did a halfway decent job.
Yeah.
Come in.
I
'cause
liked-
he's out of work
liked
now.
him.
He ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? So like, bring him in for a couple episodes of the show. You know that's where there is potential.
Yeah.
but I don't care about his backstory and what made him murder. Because obviously his little rebel friend that he kills in the beginning of Rogue One, this isn't the first time that he's done that before. Right. And I don't need a story of like what brought him to this mental state where he's willing to kill his ally just to keep his cover story so he can keep on doing what he's doing. Or like, where did he come from? I don't care.
Yeah.
He's a throwaway character.
He's kind of throwaway. At least
in
terms
of thrown away in the movie.
Yeah, he does get he gets
blown away,
burned up,
thrown away.
I think we've done more than we need to for this month's episode of Sith and Synth, but I do want to say for the next one, well, I want to save this for the next one. I want to do our next episode all about Sith, and I want to get into the Darth Vader comic book and Mommin. We can talk a little bit about him now, but I want to get into the Mommin arc, and I also want to talk about our other favorite Siths, because there's a lot that isn't talked
about.
Canon
Sith or
all
Sith?
Yeah, all Siths, because my favorite Siths aren't even in canon anymore. Disney decanonized. Didn't they decanonize the Sith Emperor?
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, he's like my favorite. What's his name? Vitiate?
One of his names.
Yeah, come on, he's the greatest ever. Do you know about Vitiate?
No.
Oh, he's the most amazing Sith to me of all time. He lived like 1,000,000 years. You know what I mean? He's incredible.
He's probably still living.
Yeah, he could still be living. Yeah, it's one of those things. And then
that's interesting.
Super interesting.
Way
I'll make
more
a show
than
about
Cassian.
that. I know. And then so I want to talk about strictly Sith next time.
Literally, just like if it has to do with a lightsaber, the philosophy of the Jedi, or anything like that, they are just pushing away from that and everything. Do you think the Mandalorian's gonna have a bunch of Jedi running?
Probably
literally
not.
The Mandalorian is set in between 6 and 7. So you're dealing with the New Republic.
Right.
That's why I'm interested in it. I want to see how the New Republic operates and what their deal is, before they get blown up in the first movie,
Exactly.
So that's interesting to me, where the setting is. But yeah, the Disney has really just done everything they can to follow George Lucas's lead on that the Sith are now dead, and we're just never gonna have lightsabers anymore unless the Benioff and Weiss movie goes Old Republic.
Right, which is what I really want.
Which is what everybody really
want
wants,
Old
but because
Republic.
everybody wants it, I think they're not going to do it.
And that's Vitiate too, which has been slightly decanonized.
He's kind of Old Republic.
He's Old Republic?
Oh, well, yeah, if you go back to
the
when he
video
was
game
a
and all-
pure Sith.
Yeah.
When he was not Mark, when he fought Marcos Ragnos, Marco Ragnos.
There's so many great Siths. So that's what I want to do. Sith, so many great Sith. I don't know. So that's what I want to do next time, since we've done a great episode today of Sith and Synth. I want to. Oh yeah, and we got to throw this out there. You know what I mean? It's not Star Wars related, but it kind of is. This guy influenced American and world culture as we know it. The sad passing of Mr. Stan Lee. Terrible, terrible tragedy. We lost an amazing creative mind who was partly responsible for the creation of most of my favorite characters in comics as well as on the big screen.
Real inspiration. I mean, the guy influenced you can see his hand in Star Wars.
Yeah,
whether he
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Directly wrote it or not,
Yeah.
You know that George Lucas was like, "Oh man, let me take some of these ideas from here."
And from of course Jack Kirby, my favorite. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee are a big part of molding that ethos, molding that world. Dave, thoughts? Stan Lee?
Well, what a great loss for us all. Tragic. I mean, but he had a good life and
great run.
He had such a great time while he was here.
know.
You never see an interview where he's like pissed off about anything. Stan Lee's the happiest guy in the world because he's living the dream.
Exactly.
So I hope he can inspire us all to live our dreams.
Exactly.
Thank you, Stan.
Yeah, thank you, Stan, for
thank you,
real.
Stan.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and doing this episode of Sith and Synth. Mr. David Cobb, thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Travis Thigpen, thank you for
Mandy
coming
Lion.
back. Mandy Lion. And we will be back with some more Danny on everything. We are back, Danny on everything. It was such a great show. I hope that everybody enjoyed our first video recorded as well as audio show with Vidi Space. We're super excited to have this platform, this amazing platform, vidi.space. That's how you can find it. And of course, you can always hear us on moosemagnificat.com the first and second Friday of every month and the first and second Sunday of every month. The Friday show is 5:30 p.m. and the Sunday show is 1 p.m. And I once again urge you, if you like what you hear, sponsor us, support us, help us. I nearly died last night and I'm still here doing the show for you guys. But, for real, help us out, man, And I'm super happy to have Travis Thigpen back and David Cobb, two of my most often returning guests. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is your third and David's second. So this is great. Fantastic. I hope to have you both come back very soon, maybe even for the next one. And thank you again to Carl Cerny, the entire Cerny family, for being incredible people and for running this amazing place we call Alcom. We call it Moose Magnificat. All of that great stuff. TFM. Check it out. And thank you again, most importantly, to all our fans and friends. We hope you stick with us and keep watching and listening. And I'd like to say thank you once again. My name is Danny Bedrosian. You have been watching and hearing Danny on Everything.